Join us for the panel discussion. Our topic is Next Gen Leadership, Training Leaders for an Unpredictable World. As we all know, as change for uncertainty, redefine leadership, organization must update how certainly leaders equip for today's challenges. Senior L&D and HR leaders will share particular insights and building reliance future-ready leadership. We also invite our esteemed panel member to contribute their perspective. So, our first panel member is Akshay Mishra. Akshay Mishra survives as a learning development specialist at Raman Lifestyle Limited. In his role, Akshay is responsible to designing and delivering comprehensive training programs tailored to organizational needs. He actively facilitates leadership development framework, ensuring that leaders are equipped with skills and necessary navigate today's unpredictable business environment. Additionally, Akshay manages performance and talent management systems, contributing to the growth and reliance of the workforce. So, welcome, Akshay.
Hey, hi, Mansi. Thank you so much for introducing me.
Great. So, our next panel member, Charu Singh. Charu Singh survives Director of Training at Teleperformance as seasoned leadership professional with 19 years of experience, advancing capability performance and business results across diverse industries and global enterprises. Additionally, she has a strong experience in client relationship management, P&L oversights, retail sales, customer service, marketing, and welcome, Charu.
Thank you so much, Mansi. Happy to be here. Thank you.
So, no event can be truly successful without a guidance of a skilled mentor. It is a mentor who ensures the seamless flow of discussion, keep the audience engaged, and brings out the best of each panel member. So, let us warmly welcome our moderator who experts and leadership with instrumental in a driven this event forward. Megha Malan, Associate Director. Megha Malan is accomplished a professional holding postgraduate degree in HR MBA and boasting over 17 years of experience in this field. Her expertise, career span, learning and development, organizational development, instructional designer, facilitator, leadership development frameworks, and the creation of motivation and effective workplace. Sorry. Megha is also certified MPL and emerging author with her first book, Wings to Thought, recently published. So, welcome, Megha. So, I request Megha to take this discussion ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mansi, for that introduction, and thank you for having us all here. Hi, Charu. Hi, Akshay. Pleasure to be moderating this power-packed panel discussion. So I think, and I know we do have some people who've joined us virtually. A warm welcome to all of them as well. So let's get started. We're going to be talking about next gen leadership, right? So maybe Charu, we could start with you. I would like to know what behaviors differentiate leaders who thrive in uncertainty from those who struggle in uncertainty. I think that should be a great opening question. So let's hear it out from you. What are those? How do you differentiate uh, leaders who thrive and those who struggle in uncertainty?
Sure. Thank you, Mika. That's a great question to begin with. So right now, we look at the world where we are, right? It's a very, very volatile world. It's no longer the standards that will work. Every day there's a new standard that comes up. So I would say that I would highlight three differentiations between one who is struggling and one who is thriving. The first is clarity versus panic. A leader who is actually thriving will not panic, will not rush to provide answers or responses. They would rather pause, analyze, and then communicate directly with a lot of clarity because clarity of thoughts is the most important aspect of a thriving leader. While those who struggle would be afraid of having direct conversation, they would either overreact or they would completely go silent. That I would say is the first differentiator. The second is learning agility versus ego or indifference. So a thriving leader will never be afraid to admit that they need to learn something, they need to unlearn something. So, whatever your past success has been, that is no longer relevant in today's time, particularly with all those changes that are happening. You cannot solely depend on your past experience. You need to continuously learn and move forward. So, a thriving leader will always go ahead, unlearn, and then learn new things and accept the facts that, past experiences serve great, but then continuous learning is important. While I would say that a struggling leader, the first of all, they will be very reluctant to change. Secondly, they would always try and, depend heavily on their past experiences that in a certain situation, this worked well for them. So this should work well again. That is the second difference. And third is transparency versus control. Now, in today's time, controlling is no longer, or authority is no longer leadership. Leadership means communicating clearly, being more, having direct conversations with your team. It is no longer just authority. So a thriving leader will not try to control people, not try to curb their voice. Rather, they would always try to communicate clearly and effectively. While I would say that a struggling leader will always try to control information, have limited information given out. That I would say that, these are the key differentiators between a thriving leader versus a struggling leader.
Beautiful. Thank you, Charu. I think that was a great opening. You literally summed up three pointers. How do we differentiate those leaders who thrive in uncertainty? I'm hoping the audience will be making notes. Super. Building on to this, Akshay, I would like to know from you, how do you think we can identify the leadership potential in this fast changing business environment?
Very well put, Megha. So I usually see this as a scope from a KSA framework, which is more of knowledge, skill, and attitude, which is the primary base of any leadership development. So of course, a leader should be equipped with basic knowledge, right? Should be a subject matter expert. That's how you walk the talk. That's more important. Of course, people management skills are really important, but more than that, whatever a leader speaks, right, a leader should also be able to do it. That's how the basic knowledge comes into picture. The second part is the skill part. Now in this agile world, skill plays an extremely important role, right? Many of them, of course, they are knowledgeable, but not everyone is skilled in today's world, right? And that's the core reason why we usually focus more on skill development rather than knowledge imparting, right? Again, skill will beat knowledge any day because skill comes with more consistency, and skill is something which turns things into actions, right? So implementation is important. Strategy is also important, yes, but 20% of strategy and 80% of execution. That's how a leadership, usually plays in this today's world. And last but not the least, very important is the attitude. So as you see in our Asian culture, specifically in the Indian culture as well as in the Japanese culture, what we see is does not matter how much knowledge you gain, does not matter how much skill you have. Still, being humble has always been a part of it, right? Uh, you meet a knowledgeable leader, a person always says that I'm still open to learning. That's one of the biggest attitude which a leader must have in today's world, which is a learning within himself, or right. So that's how I clearly define it in a very crisp by KSA model, which is knowledge, skill, and attitude. And the blending of all these three important element plays a very important role in weaving anyone's future.
Beautiful. I loved how simply you use knowledge, skill, attitude as a framework. And I'm happy to know that this still holds true in today's unpredictable world, right? And I know we could get into a debate, right? If I even ask you which is most important, how can we even rank knowledge, skill, attitude? Do you think, Charu, we could attempt at that? Which
I would
one would be
say
most
all three
important?
of them are important. If I have knowledge but I
Yeah.
don't have an attitude, it's a complete failure. And similarly, having knowledge and right attitude but no skill to deliver it, again, brings it to the failure point. So I think it's difficult to just give them a priority. They are like standing
Yeah.
equivalent. Yeah,
Absolutely. Hand in hand, a good balance is important.
absolutely.
Super. Thank you so much, Akshay. I think we can move forward. And now, when we've unpacked what do these thriving leaders look like, and how can we even understand or identify the potential, maybe Charu, I would like to hear it out from you. How do you think leadership development programs are evolving or they need to evolve from classroom to suit this real world unpredictability? How are these leadership development programs evolving?
Absolutely. Megha, there's a huge shift in the way those programs have been created now. So if you remember, let's go back 10 years down the line, and you would see that you and I probably would be sitting in a workshop, a 3-day workshop. There'd be some really good leader standing there and giving us a download of everything, right? And then after that, there is nothing. Yeah, there's a null. Everything is silent. Then again, 1 year down the line, there's something that comes up. So now that has become obsolete. It's no more relevant. So I would say that from now, the new age leadership development programs are more focused on one theory versus active learning, right? So whatever context were or concepts were being taught through models and earlier frameworks, now it is being embedded into live business scenarios, live challenges, active learnings, cross-functional problem solvings, leadership capability. All those design thinking elements have come into leadership programs now. Then instead of just having like a 1-day workshop, as I mentioned earlier, it is now being carved out as a continuous journey. So you conduct a workshop, then after 6 months, you do a connect again. You plan a session, you do engagements, then you do learning sprints, coaching, speed check-ins, cohort building, and a lot of engagement that keeps on happening because one most important factor is that unpredictability is ongoing. There'll always be unpredictability no matter what age it is, no matter what year it is. So the development plan should also be ongoing. They cannot be restricted to 1 year at a time. So that's the second thing. And third is that instead of having those generic content data driven, that suits all, right? We cannot just have a generic leadership program for everybody. So if today I am there, you are there, and let's say Akshay is there. All three of us, if we do a SWOT, we will come up with different capabilities and different areas of opportunities as a leader that we will have. So using AI tools, behavior recognitions, a lot of SWOTs, we would identify that every leader probably we can categorize them and build customized plans for them that will help them. And this will come handy because technology will help us in developing all these through the reflections, through coaching, and create much better plan for them. So I think these three are key factors when we are developing a leadership development program now, rather than the earlier approach that usually organization would follow, that having one standard generic program that is applicable for everybody. That I would say here.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Aru. So I agree. If I really have to sum up, you're saying the leadership development programs now really have to be integrated, experiential, digitally enabled, and have to be purely customized basis the core learning needs that the leaders have. Moving on from here, Akshay, would like to know from you, how do you think we can keep these leadership development programs more agile and relevant? Because business priorities will keep shifting. So how do we become agile with our programs? Akshay, you're on mute. Sorry.
Sorry, yeah. So speaking of leadership development or any journey programs, which we usually impart, has two scope to look at. One is does business really wants, or learning and development is just trying to fulfill their own KRA, right? That's very very important to prioritize. And definitely in training methodology or in training, there is a very famous concept of WIFM, that what is it in for me, right? So let's take an example that Charu is actually pulling me or asking Akshay to enter into a classroom, right? My first question will be, Charu, what exactly is it? Why should I do it, right? So creating that why factor is very important, right? And how exactly are we able to create that pull system rather than that push system is very, very important in leadership development. Because to be dead honest, I have seen in this fraternity of learning and development that we have always been very pushy when it comes to in terms of training or in terms of leadership development, right from our school level till our colleges and even in the offices. This is something which we have seen, right? But again, there's a very famous Japanese concept known as Kanban. So Kanban is creating a pull mechanism where Akshay does not goes as a trainer to the classroom rather than people are asking Akshay to come and train us on this particular topic, right? So TNI and TNA over here, again, the basics of learning and development. So most of we learning professionals, tend to forget our basics rather than, we have now evolved to integration, yes, but then the basic arithmetic still holds its own value. So while doing your training need identification, it is very important what exactly the business wants or what exactly a business needs, right? And of course, if you are able to solve business problems directly and you are able to give that tangible benefit rather than going for behavioral and which is very difficult to justify in terms of intangibility. But if you are able to give that tangible benefits in a quantitative forms, I guess the leadership development will always will be on a top of a pyramid. And of course, the way we maneuver it, right, also plays a very critical role, because there are few things that again, a traditional classroom training cannot be totally eliminated with Gen AI also coming into picture, but still traditional classroom training still has its own importance. But then on a contrary part, at what cost are we doing that training? Because again, leadership development, whenever you pull any leader for the entire day or for half a day, a leader's time also has a critical value, right? So it is very important to create that WIFM factor and to stay in that agile environment. What exactly is the business need and how exactly can you fulfill it? That plays a very critical role. So gap analysis of that is critically important, and definitely that's how we can fulfill the business needs as usual.
I think you beautifully said that, Akshay. I love how you keep going back to the basics. To keep our programs relevant, of course, TNI, TNA has to be done right. We need to map the needs to the outcome, and how do the business even want to measure those outcomes, right? That is very important. If that is done right, the programs would stay relevant. And I also loved how you said that traditional classroom is still needed, and what we do in the classroom could evolve,
Right,
but
right,
classrooms need to be there for sure
right.
to drive effectiveness. Thank you for that. Um, and now I would like to shift gears slightly because we are in this world of AI, and AI is no more a concept, it's a reality. So, Charu would like to I can move, ask you, Akshay, with you talking about the leadership development programs. How do you think digital tools, simulations, and assessments can help us accelerate leadership readiness?
Right, right. So, mega assessments again play a very critical role in anyone's life, because if you see, most of the things in learning and development actually has evolved from more of a behavioral sides, right? And when it comes to behavior, when it comes to studying anything which is intangible, becomes extremely difficult to justify in this real world, including you cannot quantify it in terms of the business needs, right? So again, let's take an example of psychometric assessments. They are one of the most beautiful tools, right? Let's take an example of very basic, again, MBTI, right? So which is Myers-Briggs aptitude test, right? It actually helps you. Of course, it has its own accuracy percentage, and it also says that whatever the result comes in can be the possibility and not exactly the core of a person, right? But again, it actually helps you in quantifying those numbers. And while you're hiring any leaders, right? So these days, again, psychometric assessments plays a very important role during hiring someone. You have a number of tests, right, from Hogan, MBTI, and you have different personality indicative tests, which actually helps that a person whom you're hiring versus the culture of an organization is, whether a person you're hiring will be a good fit or may not be a good fit, right? So again, yes, these assessment centers plays an important role during identification of HIPOTs, which is high potential employees. Uh, if you see, the traditional approach has always been very human driven, and humans are perspective driven, right? All through, we have worked a lot on eradicating our biases, but still I always say unconscious biases cannot be eradicated. It can only be optimized, right? Somewhere down the line, we humans will be perspective driven, and that's a reason that we require data as an external or any psychometric tool as an external tool, just to revalidate our own biases, right? So that's how I see, definitely, with this digital thing coming into picture. And it's not something now new. It's been decades now that we are in a digital agile world, and there have been many behavioral scientists who have put their level best in order to develop these assessments. And of course, these assessment centers are for self-awareness, and self-actualization and self-awareness is one of the highest pyramids in Maslow's hierarchy. And that's how you get to know yourself, right? Let's take an example of 360 degrees assessment. So again, 360-degree assessment also plays a very, very crucial and pivotal role in any leader's journey, right? So right from self-assessing to your manager giving you a feedback, your direct colleagues giving you a feedback, right? So that's important from internal and external perspective. And then yes, definitely I believe that it cannot be 100% core, but that, again, it has its own value, and it gives you a reflection of who a leader can be, or who a leader is willingly wanted to be, right?
Brilliant. Thank you, Akshay. So, but would you like to, I would like to hear your thoughts, additional thoughts here. Do you think technology, data insights are helping learning and development?
Any day,
Uh,
any day.
it
Of
is,
course, of
right?
course. Yes, yes,
How
yes.
about you, Charu? What would be your thoughts on leveraging data technology for accelerating leadership journeys?
Absolutely. I 100% agree to Akshay's thought because it has to be a collaboration with the data and the human, because only data will not suffice if there's no collaboration from a human coming in and actually delivering or meeting people and then delivering the insights from those data. So I think that all these advanced tools and technologies and assessments are really helpful, and their role and importance cannot be negated. So I'm completely aligned with Akshay's thought.
Brilliant. Okay, and so Charu, maybe if you can add on to this and share if any learning insight or behavioral science has influenced your leadership development journey.
Yeah. So one thing that data always shows is that one-time learning will never suffice. Even if it's a leader or it's an associate group or anybody for that matter. If I just, have them picked up for a workshop, that's not going to suffice. So continuous reinforcement is very important, whether it is for behaviors, whether it is for knowledge. Continuous, one of the most important thing from my training programs would be that leadership behavior will only shape when there is a continuous reinforcement. So it is like an RRF for me, which is repetition, reflection, and feedback. We repeat every time, we reinforce the learning, we ask them to reflect back that what have you learned so far, and then we take their feedback, and then again the entire loop goes on. So one important thing is the reinforcement. The second is the psychological safety. So irrespective how many workshops we do, the behavior needs to change. That is the key idea when we are trying to develop more leaders. They should be open for feedbacks. They should encourage the voice to be heard for the people. So another thing that differentiates, I would say, again, go back to the first question between a thriving leader and a struggling leader is how openly they encourage people to voice out. So my training program should also focus on the fact that leaders are able to provide that psychological safety and behavioral, I would say, an impact of a mental model alignment of those leaders that flows down. It's like a top down approach that the leaders should have. So these are two things that I would call out, help me shape from the data, from the learnings of the behavioral science, or from the insights from the data that we collate across all, buckets of tenure as well as groups of leadership or the levels of leadership, is that reinforcement is very important, and creating a psychologically safe environment for everybody, be it a leader or a team member, is very important when we create those programs, and learning should be embedded across them.
Absolutely. Beautifully said, Charu. I think you touched upon a very important point. Amidst data and technology and AI, we cannot neglect psychological safety. That really is the base for any learning to happen and help people transform. So, thank you for talking about that. With this, Akshay, I would like to know from you, how do you think organizations can build leadership agility without creating change fatigue for leaders?
All right. That's a very beautiful question, right? But difficult to answer. Sounds easy, but it's very difficult because change itself is painful. I don't know, for humans, we all have our own comfort zone, whether we agree or we don't agree to this, right? Uh, I don't know, the seat, even if I choose to sit in my own car, right? Every time I'll choose the same. So it's our behavior
Yeah.
that gets auto mapped in our brain, and we slowly and steadily become comfortable, right? And it has nothing to do with again, a person. Let's take an example: a proactive person who even runs a marathon, right, finds its own comfort in running 42 kilometers. If a person does not runs, he'll start having a problem with it. So imagine how change is itself in humans are difficult. But then again, with we humans evolving in this animal ecosystem, we are the most adaptable animals, and we can do things what we really want to do, right, rather than what we are supposed to. So that having choice itself is a privilege. And uh, definitely we the learning ecosystem usually which we create, right, has usually has a lot of resistance if it is from one telescopic point of view. But again, as I earlier said, that if we are able to create that pull system, and if we are able to do a training need identification and what exactly a leader wants for the organization and for the team, right, and if we are able to deliver that, definitely that change management could be managed. That's a reason why we call it as change management. Although there are certain ecosystems where learning definitely needs to be reinforced, but then I guess it only needs to be the 10% of the part where actually you need. Let's take an example. There are certain mandatory compliance trainings, right? So in that, you cannot give a privilege whether you want it or you don't want it, right? So 10% can be definitely reinforcement, but 90% it should be the privilege. A person should have a privilege of choosing its own learning journey. That's one. Of choosing as an L&D professional, I should be able to customize that recipe for a person what exactly they're looking for, and for their developmental growth either in their personal or professional life. And last but not the least, whenever we start any training programs or any journeys for that matter, one of the biggest flaws which I have always seen in L&D professional is that they really want to complete the journey, complete the program. So I focus more on evolving rather than completing, right? It's okay to sometimes even leave uncompleted journeys also if it is fulfilling your people, if it has done its job, whatever the leadership development was supposed to do. Sometimes it's okay to leave it half away, and probably you can relaunch it as 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. But rather than focusing on the completion, rather than we should also focus on how our people are evolving in this journey together.
That's those were beautiful thoughts, Akshay. Uh, just one that you said, letting people not complete it is going to put L&D professionals on spot because we need to show numbers at the end of the day. But
Of
that was on
course.
a lighter note. But I agree. The points that where you said that we should let them evolve, we should customize it completely. I think for people to own their evolution, their journey, we need to let them give them their
Yeah.
own pace, right? We can't
Right.
rush these leadership development journeys for sure.
Right.
And I know I want to again touch base onto giving that psychological safety to the leaders. That is very important, right? To reduce friction, to avoid that change fatigue that's happening. Any thoughts from you, Charu, on this whole thing of ensuring that leaders are not facing this fatigue while we want to help them evolve?
Absolutely. So I would say that there is a concept that Derolite introduced. It's called stageability. So stageability is that, we are providing the leadership also with the stages of changes that should happen, right? It's not all of a sudden that all the changes come together at first. There are stages, there are anchors that are given to people, even to leaders and teams across that, this will happen, this will not happen, this will continue to remain the same. So I think bringing change is absolute necessary. We cannot do without changes, but bringing those change in proper channelized way, giving them actual stages and milestones is what reduces the fatigue. Because then, as you mentioned, giving them the pace and time, clear stages also give organization a view from a cost benefit perspective that this change will bring me this much of cost benefit or this much of change in revenue or pipelines, etc. And then as we move forward, this is what is going to do. So even as an L&D professional, let's say tomorrow huge change is coming up in the organization and we have been given a certain target to train 100% of the organization. then we also will build a pipeline of stages, that who goes first, who goes second, and then we communicate that thoroughly so that everybody knows that this is going to happen, but it is coming in phases. The first phase will have this, the second phase will have this. And so I think that stageability concept is very important, and because people hold on to certain anchors, then they would know that, okay, this is not changing, this is changing, I need to prepare myself for this. So I think that is what additionally I would like to add.
That was a beautiful, very interesting word. I've never come across this stageability, introducing change in stages. I think that was amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Charu. Uh, Charu, again, back to you. How do you think we could measure the impact of leadership development on organizational adaptability and performance? Because at the end of the day, we want our leaders to develop for the
Yep.
organization, right? So, how do we measure that?
Sure. So, for me, measuring leadership impact will not just be a participant satisfaction survey. It should directly come from the business adaptability indicators and the impact and changes that a certain, program has brought in at an organization level. So, for example, the most easiest example I would take is pipeline and succession creating. Now, how many people do we promote internally? That is one indicator of our leadership program success rate, right? If we still have to go out and find people from outside rather than giving the talent inside, despite all those development programs that we have put in place. So that is the first checkpoint, that how many people are getting promoted? What is the promotion rate within our organization? And how fewer people are we taking from outside? That is one success measure, I would say. The second is the decision making, the quality and the speed of decision making. With all those leadership programs in place, how have we impacted the mental model? How well we have empowered our leaders to take decisions which are accurate, prompt, and add value to the business. There will always be a margin of, let's say, an 80-20, that 80% of the decisions that they take would be right, but 20% is still having a scope of not going the way they have expected. But are they empowered enough to take that risk? Are they open enough to take that risk? And that is again an indicator of how successful our learning development plans are. And third, I would say that overall, their thought process, their agility, is it getting down? Is it being cascaded? Does it have a ripple effect? Like, we all can be great leaders, we all can think, be adaptable to change, but are our teams actually learning that from us? Are they looking up to us with that same thought process? How well are they adapting to the mindset? I would say that if we see our teams adapting that same mindset, that same culture that we bring in, that would be the third measure of success, I would say, of our leadership programs that we are developing.
Amazingly said, Charu. Thank you so much. I think those were some great insights. I want to ask from you, Akshay, what do you see? How do we balance or bring in balance technology-driven leadership development with human-centered ways of developing people like coaching and mentoring?
Mhm.
How do we balance both these aspects?
So again, I follow Pareto principle, which is a classic 80-20 principle, right? 20% of strategy, 80% of execution. And if you see a lean management model, which actually says minimum input and maximum output, right? So as a leader, one should stop solving problems inside their cabins. That's a very powerful sentence. So most of the leaders, including learning and development professionals, also they try to build their journeys within four walls, right? But as lean management principle says, that try to solve your problems on your shop floors. And when I say shop floors, it's not only manufacturing shop floors, it is where your business is happening, right? Which is also known as a Gamba concept. So again, how do I really look this as a point? From my point of view, it is the 80-20 principle purely. 20% of strategies, building leadership journey programs, and building strategies, definitely they can be done within a war room, yes. But then when it comes to real problem solving, go down on your shop floor, meet your people who actually are doing that job. Ask them out what exactly their core problem is all about, and that beautiful concept of Gamba walk is whenever you see no problem is also a problem, right? So that's what Japanese say. You just go down on your shop floor, go down on your retail outlet stores, wherever the business is happening, ask them out, and then start curating your entire leadership journey programs, any training programs. So a concept of backward integration works really well over here. So I see this as an 80-20 principle purely. 80% is your Gamba walk, where you solve your life problems on your shop floors itself.
Brilliantly put, Akshay. Thank you so much. So clearly, coaching, mentoring will have a huge role to play, right? While we might
Yeah.
have
Correct.
standard journeys being offered, coaching and
Correct.
mentoring is going to help them, navigate through real time scenarios. Okay, Charup, coming back to you, since you talked about psychological safety, how do you think leaders can build resilience, foster that culture of resilience and psychological safety during uncertainty?
Most important, Mega, I would say, is having clear communication. Every time the teams do not know what is happening in and around them, what decisions have been taken, that creates a really dark space for the employees as a whole. So I think as a leader, reassurance is the first thing that a leader should do. But that reassurance should not be just a word, it should be backed up with some actions as well. So, resilience and clarity of thoughts brings a leader to the forum where he can actually give that very clearly away to the employees and the rest of the people that, this is what we know, this is what is happening, this is what we don't know yet, and these are certain actions that we are taking. So to provide a psychological safety net to the people, one of the most important thing is giving the clarity that this is happening. Second is preparing them for change. Now, one is that you give the clarity, but how many people are really clear that they have to change? Now, as I mentioned, changes will happen. They are unavoidable. But how do you prepare the people ahead of time for the change? A very simple example would be that AI and AI simulations and tools is everywhere. Now, people are very apprehensive that AI is going to take away our job. And we keep telling people that, see, AI is not taking away your job. The people who know AI, how to use an AI, will replace you eventually. So what we need to do today, when AI still is, in phases, being deployed elsewhere, so you should prepare by getting enrolling yourself into AI programs, or we ourselves are running various programs and workshop across. So that is how we prepare the people for the upcoming change. So they know that this change is happening. So preparing people for change, giving them clear communication are two most important factors that a leadership must do and display whenever they have to make sure that they are creating the right kind of safety net for the people. These are the two most critical aspects.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Akshay, would you like to add your thoughts into what more leaders can do? Akshay, you're on mute.
I'm audible? All right. So yeah. So one is what more leaders can do is, one is have an open mind and have an open ear to actually sit and listen down the line to what exactly the team members have for them, right? So one is definitely whenever someone moves to a leadership position, or let's take an example, whenever someone has power to make decisions, right? So usually most of humans, they want things to get happen the way they want it, right? So I feel uh, rather than, it should be more what an organization needs, not as an individual, right? Leader should be more process driven rather than very being self-centric. So what exactly, because whenever a task becomes person dependent, usually whatever we have seen as an L&D professional is uh, no human dependent task always, in the end it suffers. When you slowly and steadily make it a process driven, probably your product, your people, your business will thrive. So let's take a beautiful example of the organizations like MACD, right? So you eat a burger, whether you are in Delhi, whether you are in Mumbai, whether you are in Kolkata, does not matter. The taste of a burger remains same, right? So probably the leadership team over there had, slowly and steadily they transitioned from being extremely oriented to a process driven organization, so that the business does not suffer, right? So again, it has its own gray, it's a gray field whether this thing can be debated on whether how much to be people oriented or process oriented. But still, I feel as a leader, the decisions should be more data driven, should be more process driven, should be more structured rather than purely coming out from one personal biases.
So I think there has to be a balance of all the aspects that you said and what Charu said, right? Communicating with clarity and ensuring you are
Yeah,
helping them manage change. And I think
right.
emotional intelligence is what I would like to add. You, as leaders, if you're not emotionally intelligent, you will never be able to build that psychological safety for your people, right? Because at the end of the day, we're dealing with we're dealing with humans, and humans are
Yeah,
further dealing with humans. So
right.
emotional intelligence has to be embedded at every section of our work. I do see Rajdeep from the audience saying, "Rule of wisdom: owls observe before acting." Well said. Thank you for sharing. I think since we're coming towards the closure, I would like to ask from you, Charu, and then I'll come back to you, Akshay. If you
Mm-hmm.
really have to sum up, how do you think leadership expectations have changed over last few years, and which capabilities are now non-negotiable for leaders?
Great question, Megha. So I would say that leadership now has shifted from a control thing to more human centric. So here the emotional intelligence aspect comes in. Now, emotional intelligence has become the key. One of the most unnegotiable trait and capability for a leader is emotional intelligence. Then adaptive influence, and their own speed to adapt changes, decision making under stress situations. These are some new core expectations. And most importantly, these have become foundational. Along with emotional intelligence, these are foundational now. Nobody would only depend on somebody or hire a leader who's got X number of experience alone. When they're judging now a candidate for a leadership role, they're looking at all these aspects. Now, even the assessments have changed. They're bringing a lot of elements of emotional intelligence, of working under unpredictable scenarios, or handling situations which are BCP in nature. How would you handle all of these things together? So I think now these are unnegotiable qualities along with the product or process or your function expertise that are required.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Akshay, would you like to add on to this?
Yeah, because so as Charu beautifully mentioned about emotional intelligence, yes. So with again generative AI coming into almost every verticals of humans, right? Emotional intelligence has its own important value, right? And how a leader really works under pressure without being arrogant or without showing that anger as an emotion plays a real important role, because again the generation entirely is evolving, right? Earlier people used to work for money, but these days people are working for purpose, right? Because their basic fulfillment as per the Maslow hierarchy needs, which is food, clothing and shelter, has already been secured now. So with this evolution, again the social connections, the networking, how well you speak to people, again the emotional intelligence part plays a very important role. And finally, I guess there would be, I don't know, a day where we humans will have not to work anymore. We'll rise to that self actualization stage, but again that will take more centuries. But then yes, as Maslow had beautifully portrayed it well. So of course we now have secured our first two stages. We are already on our third stage where emotional intelligence plays an important role. More two stages to go, and finally we humans probably, I don't know, we'll just think of our own luxuries and it will be fulfilled, right? But
Yeah.
yes, uh, uh, emotional intelligence plays an important role. So leadership needs to learn to work towards purpose now rather than just playing their own business KRAs.
Absolutely. And just because you mentioned this Gen Z word somewhere, I think we can have a, a lot more discussion around how leaders should be in order to manage Gen Z and Gen Alpha coming in.
Right.
Emotional intelligence would definitely stay true because this Gen Z needs purpose-driven work. They need work where they could integrate passion and purpose. And of
Right.
course, money is not the only motivator for them now. So, any thoughts on keeping in mind Gen Z and Gen Alpha coming into picture? What leaders need to do better?
So one is again, a management part is required rather than the controlling factor, right? So again, a thought should now shift from controlling nature to the management. That's one. Apart from that, everyone has their own purpose, and a leader should actually help Gen Z's or any people. It's not only about Gen Z's now, but every human has its own purpose, and as a leader, they should also personally help them in identifying the core purpose, right? Whether they actually fit in that particular job of what they are doing, or they're just doing for a namesake. That's one. Apart from that, a beautiful ecosystem can be built where CFTs can be formed, which is cross-functional teams. Probably, if I speak of myself, while I was working back with Flipkart, I was never a learning and development guy. I've never studied HR in my life, right? So I'm an accidental HR, but then the passion for learning was, again, it was imparted, and it was now it's my pursued behavior now, right? So again, unless and until you don't test that waters, you'll never get to know that what exactly do you like or you don't like, right? So sometimes passion can also be gifted to someone, which I feel. Of course, passion is inherited. There's no doubt in that. But then again, influence also plays an important role in someone's life. So leaders can actually help people in finding their purpose, and which will navigate. And again, from the emotional intelligence part of view, or from the psychological safety, there would be people will actually not feel loaded, or they'll not feel that after working for 8 9 hours, still they'll feel that they're alive and what exactly they're enjoying. So helping a person find a purpose, I guess it's the biggest gift which a leader can give it to anyone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Any closing thoughts from you, Charu, on this?
Yeah, I think there are two things I would like to add. One is because Gen Z has got such a huge exposure to everything that's happening around the world because they're so well socially connected and social media is always there. So one thing that they have observed while I work with my teams as well is that they focus too much on the well-being, mental, physical well-being. So I think as a leader, while I work with trust, authenticity, I should also imbibe a culture where there's a lot of focus on the mental well-being, the physical well-being, lesser stress environment, because that will keep them motivated and float, and stay connected with you, but that you understand what they are looking for. Second thing I would say is collaboration. It is no longer like, a one-way communication. Usually when we started working way back, maybe in 2004, early 2000s, we saw that there was a lot of directions that were given to us. And we used to just accept those directions that, okay, this is how we need to work. But now this generation needs to collaborate. They have their own ideas. And as a leader, we should be accepting those ideas coming in and then collaborate and make sure that they understand that we are listening to them. We are respecting their decisions, their ideas well as well. I think these two aspects are also very important for this new age leaders when they are working with the Gen Z and the upcoming generations.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for such thoughtful insights, Charu and Akshay. If I really have to sum it up in the interest of time, so leadership in today's unpredictable world is less about direction, it's more about connection, collaboration, igniting curiosity, and really helping people find the way ahead together.
A special thanks to all our participants and all our esteemed speaker, Akshay Mishra, Charu Singh, and Megha Malani for sharing their thoughts, valuable insights and experience. Your contribution have not only enlightened us but also inspired us to contribute strong efforts and excellence innovation in our respective field. We sincerely appreciate the time and efforts, your innovation, and making this event successful. We're looking forward to connecting again in future. Thank you once again and wishing you everyone to continue growth and success. Thank you so much everyone.